So once I've done that, once I've done what I think is a good 180-degree scramble, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start doing shape-shifting scrambles. And at this point, it doesn't matter how you do it, except that this is going to be in the form of cuboid, which means that they're following basically the movements of cuboids. So we're going to go ahead and shape-shift here, here, and I am going to go ahead and finish that process. And just to make sure that we're doing something unique and doing something that you haven't seen before, I'm going to go ahead and do both of these solves at the same time rather than do individual tutorials, because really we're dealing with the same kind of thing. We're dealing with the same concept. I thought it would be kind of interesting, just to prove that you can apply that same concept to whatever brick you use. Abracadabra. Okay, now let me remove some of this here so there's no distractions. Now, I want to say something else. I want you to remember what I was talking about the association of the outer edge and the corners, because that association is going to be key to the solving of this very interesting beast. Now, this is a 2x3x4. It looks like a normal, fully functional 2x3x4, but it actually isn't. There is a way of solving it as is, but we're going to get to that later. But remember that concept of corners. Okay, so when embarking on the solve, the first thing you have to do, especially if it's a higher layer puzzle, is to put in the centers, because what we're trying to do is we're going to try to convert it to the lowest order. So we're going to want to try to get the higher orders and put the centers in. Now, I demonstrated that with this, with the 4x5x6. The reason why I'm not using this for demonstration is I already went through a tutorial with this, and I don't want to be too repetitive with that. So in this case, the highest order is going to be the order where you have the 6 sides, and that's going to be the 4, because this is a 3x4x5. So this is the 3x4x6 rather. So this is the 4x6 layer. So I'm going to want to put the centers in. In this case, it's fairly easy to do that. I might have ended up with a situation where it wasn't quite so easy. But in any case, you fairly intuitively place the centers over here. So we'll put this over here like so. Turn this like thus. And place it in like such. Now after we do that, this is 3 layers in. This is kind of like a middle over here. So how am I going to get these in without messing this up? Well, I want to move this in, but what I'm going to do is turn this over here so that this blue can, actually we'll turn it back. I want this blue to occupy this slot. So I'm going to turn it in. So now it's occupied that slot, and I've basically coordinated this side to be out just like this. Now I'm going to double turn this over here, this side here, so that now when I turn it back, this green will match up with this green over here. See, center in, piece of cake. Same thing over here. Again, this is all preliminary, red to red slot. So turn. By the end of this, I think I'm going to be covered in a fine layer of black dust. But it's worth it. And turn. Okay, so basically we have our centers in. So we're good. We're good with that. Over here, do I have any centers? Nope. I got a single center here, and I don't really have any centers per se over here, just edges. Now, after I've done that, I'm going to want to do edge placement. So I'm still doing the process of reducing this down to a 3x3x2 so that I can solve it as such. It won't be completely solved. It'll just be put back in its cuboid form. So to do edge pairing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a color. In this case, it's going to be yellow. This is how you can do edge pairing with any of the dominoes. We've actually seen that before. How about we do this, because it's sticking out at me. Here's a green and yellow, so I'm going to move this over here. And then we double turn. So this is in. Now that I've got this in, just like we did with the domino, the higher order dominoes, take this out of the workspace so I can move this back. I'm going to turn this here, double turn here, and turn this back, like so. Now before I turn it back, is there another one that I can put in? Well, here's the orange and yellow. Why don't I go for that? Or better yet, I have the red and yellow. I have both of them over here. So I'm going to turn it like so. and move it in like thus. So now I've got this one in. So this is then moved out of the workspace. So I'm going to put this in the same side as this. Now I'm not really worried about the coordination of this with this. You saw how easy it was to put that in. We're going to want to put this back into here. So I'm going to move this over here. This is going to now move into this slot to be replaced. So move it in, double turn, and move it back. Okay, so green is here, red is here. So what do we have? We've got the orange one. Do we have another orange? Right over here. So to move that in, I'm going to move this one to over here on the top. Move it like so. Put it in that slot, double turn, and move it back. Okay, now what I can do is I can start moving things into place. Move it like so. So this orange is now going to correlate with this. And as it happens, I got my purple one in and I got my orange one in. Now I'm going to move these off to the side so I can get my centers back here. So I'll go like turn, turn, turn. Same thing with this one. Turn, turn, and turn. Okay, now that we've done that, actually this yellow wants to turn into here. Turn this like so. So I'm just coordinating these sides together and turn it over here. Okay, so basically we have edge placement of one side over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my cross. So this will come here. Now what I also want to be sure of is I want to be sure that these are associated correctly. So if this is my orange side, I'm going to turn this over here. So if this is yellow and this is orange and yellow, blue's got to be here. This is green. So I put the wrong one in. I'm risking myself a whole mess of trouble. I want to get blue in here, blue to this side, so I'll move blue in like so. And I'm going to double turn this here and turn it back. Now again, this has to be blue, so I'm going to match blue to blue. Turn this here, double turn, and turn it back. Now I'm not getting into detailed discussion on the strategy because I've actually gone over a lot of that with the previous cuboid tutorials in the series. This is just to show general strategy. So now all this is fine. Okay, so just to review again, I'm going to go ahead and get my cross back here. This comes here. This comes to the opposite side. Over here. Double turn. This comes here. Double turn. And double turn. Okay, so we basically have our cross here. Now I have to get the edges up here. Now this is done cuboid style, but I don't have any center edges or middle edges. I just have middle corners. I look at these guys as though they're corners. So none of these are in. What I want to do is I want to do a corner swap to get this green over to here, and that's what I'm going to do. So using this as an R, 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R, do a UI, the D, and then 2R, UI, 2R, U, 2R, and this moves back, I think, like so. So this is in. Now this has to come in. Now I have to move the blue one here. Is the blue here? It's not. So I got to move this blue edge, these two edges en masse to here. So now I'm going to look at these not as two corners, but these both as edges and do an opposite edge swap. So now I'm also going to be killing two birds with one stone, because remember I have this middle edge here, and I'll point out this side scrambles with this side. All of these sides scramble with each other, but in terms of layers, these middle layers always just scramble with the opposite side. So eventually I'm going to want to get this as just like a middle membrane, so to speak. Now what I'm about to do is it's going to cause placement issues, but I might as well prepare myself by getting the placement issues that's already here out. So I don't want to do it here because this is the yellow, this is the orange side. So I'm going to move this, say, over here. The reason is because this has to be green, these two are misplaced. So I'm going to go ahead and move these, and I'm also going to take care of this placement issue here. So this is a adjacent edge swap to our U, to our U, to our, to U, to our, to U, to our U, to our UI, and to our. Okay, so why did I do that? Well, I did that because I wanted this blue edge to be right next to this one here. That way I can go about continuing my strategy to get all these edges reduced. So now this one that is in goes to the left side, and I do now an edge swap. I can get this back in, and now notice I put all of these in. So, all right, so we'll go ahead and do an adjacent edge swap to our U, corner swap I mean, to our UI, to our UI, D, to our UI, to our U, to our. Now understand what we're doing is we're taking known algorithms and just applying them in what appears to be a novel situation. So now all of these are in. So now we're good. We have now reduced our centers and our edges, and we've taken the complexity of this puzzle down. Because now what we want to do is we want to start to put them in, but because we have extended edges over here, this is acting as one, as is this, so this is a 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3 kind of a puzzle, and over here we have a 1, 2, 3. So it's like a 3 by 3 by 3 quote cuboid, but we ignore this middle edge over here. So it's really like a 3 by 3 by 2, and that's how we're going to do it. Now when you do bricks like this, I would advise you to look at your extended edges and define it in terms of the edge in the end here. Why is that? Because we don't have access to this middle area. We might as well define it based on these. So this piece, collectively these two are red and yellow. Not red and white, but red and yellow. And we're going to solve it like a domino with that said, and we're going to solve it exactly like a 3 by 3 by 2. So we will do that. We're going to take this, we're going to do put the yellow at the bottom. So find all the yellows that are here that need to be put in. This is now if I were to solve this guy, understand I'd have to put these two in, because I'd have to convert these collectively into what this is. So I'd have to solve it like a domino with these guys, just as a refresher. Anyway, this is going to be red, yellow, and green. Find the red, yellow, and green here. So right here, here's green. This is actually red. So I'm going to move this into place over here, and domino style put this down to here, which will lock this green into here. To our U, to our UI, and to our. All right, that does lock this into here, creates placement issue over here, but that's okay. We'll just move on. Next is going to be the green, yellow, and orange, which is just to the side. Now I keep it in this position because now the next move will take this placement issue out. To our U, to our UI, and to our. And as promised, placement issue is taken out, and now we've got this over here. So we've got the bottom layer not exactly solved because this is in the wrong place, which means we've got another one in the wrong place. Oh, no, I was wrong. This one, see? Got fooled by that. So I'm going to move this over here to move this blue, yellow, and red right down to here. To our U, to our UI, to our. Creating placement issues here, but I don't worry about that yet. Let's just solve the top layer. Do I have two? Remember, with the domino, I'm looking for two corners that are in, and I'm defining the corners as the terminal edges here, and yes, right over here. So I'm going to move this to the side. I want to keep this placement issue in front of me so I don't forget. Now there's no parity on the top, so green is here. I know green is here. See? Ding, ding, ding. So it's not like here where they could have been separated when I looked at these as corners. So now I'm going to just move these here with a corner swap. To our U, to our UI, to our, turn it, to our UI, to our U, to our, and we turned it back. So now all these corners are in, we just have to get the centers. So this red needs to come here. Ignore these. Remember, we're just defining it based on the terminal end here. So we're going to do an adjacent edge swap. I'm going to put it on this side so I can get this placement issue back. Again, ignoring these parts. That'll be placed at the 180 degree step. To our U, to our U, to our, to U, to our, to U, to our U, to our UI, and to R. So that's fixed. This center is in. Now we just have to move these two in. So now we maintain placement issues over here, but understand we've achieved our first goal. We've taken this into the native cuboid form. That was our first goal. So now, why don't we do it with this guy? Can our strategy work? Well, sure. Why not? We don't have to do any edge placement. So all I have to do is I just have to get my cross. So here's the red over here. I'll keep that over here. Opposite red is going to be the orange here. So turn. This represents a much simpler model, turn, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have issues all its own. Turn, so I've got these two in. Now it goes just to the right, if this is yellow, just to the right of orange. Well, here's the red. Just to the right of red would be green. So where's the green? Green is over here. See, green and yellow. So much easier and faster when you don't have to reduce edges. This comes here. Well, this is just to show that the strategy is exactly the same. And this is over here. So this is our cross over here. And now we'll just put the rest in domino style. Red and blue right over here. To our U. To our UI. To R. So as you can see, this is in. By the way, this puzzle was made by Ole Jansen. This is one of his early models that I picked up somewhere. Someone was selling it, and I said, I gotta have one of those. And that's how I picked it up. Don't ask me how, I don't even remember. But anyway, this is Ole Jansen's. He's another brilliant cuboid creator. So I want the green and the red, which is right over here. Green, red, and yellow. To our U, to our UI, and to R. So that's in. Now, because I don't have any middle membranes here, I don't have any middle layers, I don't worry about placement issues, placement parities. Next is this, blue and orange, which is right here. To our U, to our UI, to R, that's in, which brings this one to where it needs to be over here. Green and orange, which is this. To our U, 2R, UI, 2R. So domino strategy to bring it to the cuboid form. The bottom layer is in, these corners are in, these are not. This comes to the side. I know red is over here. See? 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R. Now the whole puzzle turns. 2R. Now this is an old puzzle, so I gotta be careful. U, 2R, UI, 2R. Okay, so you see all of these are in, so we'll go ahead and place our corners, or our edges, adjacent edge swap. 2R, U, 2R, U, 2R, 2U, 2R, 2U, 2R, U, 2R, UI, and 2R. Okay, this is in. Now we want to get the green one in here. So swap these guys. Okay, now we just have these two. UI and 2R. So much quicker, we were able to get it back to the cuboid form. Using domino techniques, now we do Rubik's 180 types algorithms, type strategies to get it back to the to basically get the solution. Unless there is parity. So let's see what we've got. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for homologous layers where I can do 180-degree turns. So I'm looking, and I'm seeing these two. This belongs here. This was kind of at the end of our domino strategy. So the algorithm, which I'll post, and you've seen me do, there's an odd layered version and there's an even layered version. Odd layered is if you have 1, 3, or 5, or however. Even layer is where you have 2 or 4. With the odd layer version, you'll put it in, but you're going to create another parity issue, another placement issue at 90 degrees. But the good thing about the bricks is eventually you're going to end up with an even layer version of it, in which case you won't get that placement issue. So the way it works when it's odd is you put both placement issues on the right and the left and do the algorithm 2U, 2R, 2F, then you do one more 2U, then 2F, 2R, 2U, and with the odd layer version you always finish with a 2F. And as you can see, you put this back in, but you did create placement issues here. But because this is even layered, this won't create that placement issue, so you'll fix the whole thing. Now what you do with this is you split just below or just in the middle of where your parity is. In this case it's right here. So that's going to be your first U. 2U, 2R, and then 2F. Now once again you go 2U, but then you do the 2U above that. Right above where you have the parity. Then you finish it up with a 2F, 2R, 2U, and you will have fixed that. So now let's study this. Let's see what needs to go where. And sometimes you have to do some setups, construction, and deconstruction. I can refer you back to the various tutorials of this guy and this guy. This is more just to put it all into perspective and to maybe demonstrate some other puzzles that you might not have seen. So I can see that these don't quite belong where they're at, so I'm just going to double turn them and move them to the respective layer, just like this. Okay, now in terms of middles, I'm seeing that these two are homologous with these two. And wouldn't it be nice if I can swap that? Plus I have red and white, but I'm not seeing homologous layers here. Now I already know I created parity with this, but this is how I discover it. I'm going to turn this here so that I can swap these two with these two. Now when you have a situation where you're doing placement issues, this parity swapping algorithm in a deeper layer, you will swap them, but you're going to place the parity in the layer above it. So just be warned that you're going to have to do it twice. So the algorithm here is you split it here. This is even layered. You split your U just below where the parity starts. So 2U, 2R. Now in this case, your 2F encompasses these two. So 2F. Then you do a 2U that splits it again. 2U. Then another U above it. 2U. Then you do a 2F. 2R, and 2U. So it did fix it. And believe it or not, it did move the parity up here. It's kind of hard to see, but here's the white and red, white and red. Where do I want to move this? Well, before I move this out here, I want the white and red to be over here. So I'm just gonna move it over here with the same algorithm, and actually we can now turn this back like so. And shift this over. Now in turn, this yellow and red is going to end up over here, so we're going to have to find a home for that. But I know these go over here, so I'll just do that. 2U, 2R, 2F, split here, 2U, and then 2U, 2F, 2R, 2U. So yep, as promised, this is over here. So now I have these guys that are in. Now I know it's going to be difficult to put them in, but I'm just going to see what belongs where. I know that this red and orange belongs over here. So I'm just going to put it in. It's like I'm putting things in one by one, and I know this orange and white is supposed to be here. So I'm just going to shift these around, so at least I put this in and I put this in. These two are opposite each other. I know that there's parity, because if these are opposite, these two need to be the same, equivalent and opposite, but they're not. Nor are these. So I recognize there is parity, but let's put them in as much as we can. 2U, 2R, 2F, 2U, 2U, 2F, 2R, 2U. We'll go ahead and swap these because I'm moving this out, right? But I'll be moving this in. So I'll come out even Steven, but at least I'll put this one in, and this one will still be out. So I'm going to swap these guys. So when you have situations of parity, by doing this algorithm, you're going to just start putting things in one by one. I can already tell that there isn't really a symmetry here. So 2U, 2R, 2F, 2U, 2U, 2F, 2R, and 2U. Okay, so this is the classic situation, the classic parity situation, where you have three out, and the way it's going to look is you're going to have one that's out that still has the same color as the side here, another that's out that has the same colors as one of the sides, and one that's completely messed up. It looks exactly like this, actually. Ignore this inner piece over here. This, and this. So in essence, that's what's going on. Before I get into more details, let's go ahead and solve this one. Well, we've got a couple to choose from. I've got this here, I've got this here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that with the odd numbered version of the algorithm. But understand, I'll put these in, but I'm going to take these out, and I'll have to do it again. It just shifts the placement issue up to here. And I'll show you what I mean. 2U, 2R, 2F, splitting it here, 2F, 2U, 2F, 2R, 2U, and 2F. And actually two things happened. I moved the placement up here, and I also created placement issues at right angles, but I'm not going to worry about that yet. I'm just going to put these in immediately. So 2U, 2R, 2F, 2U, 2F, 2R, 2U, and 2F. The end result, these are all placed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly do the same thing over here. I'm going to place these. So we shot these all in here, so we're fine. Now let's take a look at what we've got here. I've got some symmetry here, right, with these edges, green and white, which means I should have reciprocal areas here, but I don't. and I don't. So I know there's parity, but let's put these in at least where they're supposed to be. These are supposed to go here. So I hope you understand what I'm talking about, which is why these 180 degrees work. The only way that they can work is that if these equivalent pieces are in this place, in the same plane, another one has to be in the same plane here. That's why you can flip them. However, if it's not like that, then you won't be able to flip it. You won't be able to do the algorithm to put it back in. If, say, this was on top of this, these would all be on top of each other too, and I'd have to just turn them around to put them in the proper place. So I hope that makes sense, but if this flips here, you want these two to flip here, and that's only going to work if two equivalent ones are matched with two equivalent ones over here. But it's not going to work this time. 2U, 2R, 2F, 2U, 2U, and 2F, 2R, 2U, and notice what we have. We have the same form. We pretty much have the same form here. See this over here. See this over here. And see this over here. Same form as this. So, how do we get out of this parity situation?